John, what drew you and Yoko together in the first place?
I have no idea, you know. Bigger than both of us.
Yoko?
Well, that's the same, you know.
I can't say.
Yeah. Where did you two meet originally, you know, and where did it all happen?
We met at Yoko's, one of Yoko's art shows at Indica Gallery, you know. I went along to see it and met her. And I met her a few times at different places. And then we clicked. You know.
And you just kind of discovered that your heads were in very much the same place. Now, Yoko, do you find that John is influencing a great deal of your art, the art that you're still doing alone, your paintings and such? What kind of influence is he kind of exerting on your work?
Sort of, I don't know. Well, you know, John actually really changed the whole world in a way. You know, he influenced the whole world, I think, you know. In that sense, I was sort of influenced. Directly in my work, you know, this, I think my work lacked a kind of relaxed type of sense of humor, you know. I mean, there was sort of a cynicism in it, but there wasn't a real sense of humor, and also sort of constructive thinking, you know. And that's the thing that I sort of got from John, I think.
Well, how did you find John getting this together for you?
No, it's not that he, you know, planned it and got together for me or anything. I mean, it's just something that you sort of, you know, just caught it, you know, through vibrations. You know, you just felt it.
Now, what were you doing before you met John as far as your art is concerned, on your own? What kind of things were you into?
I was doing various things, gallery shows, you know, of paintings and sculptures, environments, things like that. Music concerts of my compositions. What else? Writing poetry, you know. Oh, yes, making films.
Yeah. 4 of them, in fact, right?
No, not really. Number 4 is just an arbitrary number I picked up, you know. And I made about 7 short films before that, etc. Number 4 is actually the first feature-length film that I made. So number 4 is all illogical, you know. It doesn't mean anything, really. It's just a number.
Now, I saw a clip of number 4 with the 365, you know, bottoms. What, you know, what was the thing that was happening in this film? Why did you decide to do this particular type of thing?
It just came to me, you know, that all my works had a tendency of being very sort of puritanical and serious and all that. And I thought it was getting too serious in a way. An ivory tower type, you know, sort of very in, but that was that. And I just wanted to communicate in a larger scale, and it was just good vibration, you know. And number 4 had that rhythm, you know.
John, how about Yoko's influence on, you know, as far as the songs that you're writing for the Beatles?
I can't pinpoint an influence on the songs particularly, but she's influenced me, you know, so it'll therefore influence everything I do.
Now, do you find that you're really into such a mixed media thing with art and film and music and the whole thing? Have you ever thought that maybe since you're doing all these various things that it's going to prevent you from doing one of them really extremely well?
That's presuming they're all different things.
Yeah.
Our point is that films, music, everything's art, you know, it's communication, and that's it. And it isn't a diverse career. It's the same career. We were both doing the same sort of thing in different fields, in a way. And
in fact, you know, when you said that about influence and all that, you know, it almost sounds too logical and...
No, what I didn't mean logical, you know, a school of art has,
I didn't
you
know,
know,
but what I mean is,
has influenced so-and-so.
in our case, it's almost like we were both doing almost the same kind of thing, and both thinking in the same line, you know, in different fields, you see, or different places, something. And then we just met, you know, and found out that what John was doing and what I was doing was more or less the same thing, you know, in a sense that we were trying to send good vibrations to the world, you know.
Now the album Two Virgins, I've heard it, and it's not a one-time listening experience. You've got to listen to it, I'm sure, 8 or 10 or 800 times to really get into, you know,
Or maybe
what you two are
can
doing.
get it, you know.
It depends on the person.
Yeah,
you know,
depends.
it
And
depends on your mood,
It's not a
etc.
catchy LP.
you know, could you tell me the story of what was behind Two Virgins and, you know, how you did it?
We were just taping in my sort of what I call a studio, which is just a half a dozen tapes in the house that I used to fiddle about with, you know, mellotrons and pianos and things, and we just got together and played together. It's just a bit of off-stage noise, folks, don't worry about it. And we just did it, and then when we finished it, we realised we had an LP, you know. There's one influence he's had on me. If I did anything vaguely like that before, I'd just do it for sort of fun, and maybe play it to Ringo, or, you know, play it to each other, but never carry it through, you know, take it, not seriously, but just take it any step further. I'd always leave it as an idea in the air, and what she's done is sort of told me somehow that if you take it through to an end, you get a buzz from it, just like having a record released, you know. And that's what I've been doing, you know, with different things.
Now, the cover, you know, caused a great deal of consternation, especially in America. They get very uptight about things like that. What, you know, brought this on? Why this particular way?
Well, originally when we met sort of as artists, you know, so-called or whatever it is. And we got talking, and I wanted to record Yoko because she'd played me some of her tapes of what she calls voice modulation, which is just very groovy sounds from her throat, you know. And I was going to make an LP of her, and I was in India for 3 months, and I was going through everything. I also went through what kind of cover should I design for her, you know, what the package should be like. And the natural thing about that I got from her and her book is it grapefruit thing, was simplicity and childlike, you know, and innocence. And if you look at it with the hang-ups, it looks devious and complicated, you know. But if you just look at, like, Two Virgins can be devious and complicated, but it can also just be John and Yoko in that room with a couple of tapes, meeting at certain points and not meeting, and so on, like any music, you know. And I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, and then
We just got up.
I thought, so the best cover for her would for her to be naked and sort of say, "This is me," you know, no arty cover or, you know, no design to it, just a plain straight photo of her naked as her work is, you know. And then when we got together, excuse me,
all right, go ahead.
it was natural for us both to be naked. I just thought, I didn't think of any results or why or what's going to happen. It was just naturally when we got together and made the LP together that we should both be naked on the cover. You know, I didn't think anything till I started getting reaction from people, you know.
You didn't feel that the consequences would, you know, you didn't feel that people would get very uptight about this?
No, I couldn't see that, you know. I mean, I had some inkling when I first showed people, or even when I first got it back, I got the surprise of seeing myself actually naked, you know. But I thought, well why not, you know? We're all naked. And so it was just when I started showing it to people and people reacted very strongly, I thought, well, maybe there's some trouble here, you know, and it built up from that. But I did it in all innocence.
No, but I was just going to say that
Because the gardener is coming back.
when John sent me a letter from India, you know, and with a drawing of me naked on a sort of a huge glass wall, you know, sort of sitting on it. And he said, well, how about this as a cover design, you know?
John, the revolution, I don't think necessarily it stems from the song that the Beatles did. I think it was a long time before that. How do you think it's going?
I've no idea, really. You know.
As far as what you see and experience yourself.
I don't know. I just know there's something in the air, you know. That's all I know. And I don't know what form it takes. I don't know whether, 5 million people in Trafalgar Square or Two Virgins cover is doing it, or are both of them doing it, and to what extent they're having the effect. But I know, look, a lot of people are trying for the same thing, you know, but I don't know how well or bad it's going, you know. I go from one extreme to the other thinking it's all fine and we are changing it, to we don't stand a pig's chance, you know.
Do you think you and Yoko, and even the Beatles generally, kind of stand for, you know, what is going, you know, to further this revolution?
Yeah, I mean, we're for the revolution, whatever it is, you know, but as I sort of said in that song, I'm not pro-violence, you know, but I don't particularly put down, I'm not saying, well, get off the streets and stop marching and waving and distracting people, but I can't give a yes to let's destroy it all, you know. I don't think that's the answer. I think it's the same idea as a few years ago, and it was drop out, you know. What we believed in was dropping in and change it, you know. It's the only way. Because you might be dropped out in Cornwall or California or anywhere, but if the revolution doesn't happen, they're going to get you there, you know. And you've got to get in it and mix it a bit.
The revolution hopefully is happening, and this is 1969 is probably going to be the most important year as far as whether it's going to really happen or just these stirrings are going to die out because people selling out. Now the two versions of revolution that you did, they changed. One word changed really, but it was such an important one as far as people listening to the Beatles and John Lennon are concerned. If you talk about destruction, you can count me out, and then in.
Well, that means I'm not sure, you know. Both versions of it are so different. The one on the LP is the original version, and the one that was on the single record of Hey Jude was the second version, or third or something. And I really think, you know, if it gets to destruction, you can count me out. But I'm not sure, you know. I'm human, and I'm liable to change, or depending on the situation. I prefer non-violence, you know.
Now, how is your joint work going to further the revolution?
That, both of us are actually very positively, you know, doing things to change the world and all that, you know, and for the better. But not in the well, we don't go to Trafalgar Square and sit or, you know, march or anything. But that's not the only way, you know. We don't believe that that's the only way. And our way may be quieter and sort of slower, maybe, you know, it seems. So people might be thinking that we're just evading it, you know, we're avoiding problems and hassles. But it's not like that at all. Actually, John's songs, you know, the vibration that he's sending to the world through his songs, you know, and the the things that we're doing together, or my films, anything, they were just sort of gradually changing the world, I think.
Well, John, what about do you feel then that everything you're doing, and Yoko too, really, as far as art is concerned, whether it's with the Beatles or with Yoko, that it's merely just a lever to further the revolution?
Well, it's that as well. You know.
In other words, we don't believe artists for art's sake. In other words, we believe that artists
Means to an end.
well, no, I mean artists are part of the society and definitely has to take responsibility as a member of the society, and not just making things to decorate the gallery or anything. It's definitely a message, definitely a communication, definitely something to change the world for the good.
John, does it bother you at all that your songs are taken on so many different levels as far as interpretations are concerned?
No, because they are on all those levels, Excuse me, I feel a bit sick.
Right.
They work on all levels.
You can make it. John, since you've kind of undergone this particular renaissance, which I think is a pretty good word for it.
Very nice.
And you realize, that the amount of power that you can exert in the music world,
Yes.
and just generally in the world, period. Has it affected the way, your lyrics are coming together, what you're trying to say, now that you know what you've got?
No, not because this power thing that we're supposed to have is this sort of abstract thing, and the only time we ever try to sort of say we're aware of this power, we're trying to do something with it, was with Maharishi and the meditation thing. And that was the only time we sort of consciously thought, this power exists, let's try and do something with it. And I think it did some good. I still believe in meditation and the principles that were put forward to us. So that's the only conscious effort, Now the songs, you're vaguely aware that if you sing something, it's going to go round all over the world, but you can't get into that while you're writing a song. It's a job writing a song, and you're doing it and you're involved in it, and then sometimes you don't realize what you've written till after you've recorded it, or even a year later. I hear old records of ours and see things on different levels suddenly, or I'll sing a song to Paul and he'll see it on a level that I haven't seen at all, and that'll be the subtlest level you could see it on. And even though I've written it, and somewhere in my soul knows whatever makes you write it like that, is aware of what it said, you're not always aware at the time of doing it, what you are saying.
Yoko, how do you and John feel that you're going to be able to kind of clue the world in to what you two are doing as far as art is concerned? Because I think really two virgins, it's a very heavy thing. And it is going to need some explanation.
Well, it's just happened, He has a pop song background, and I have sort of, I don't know if I can call it a classic music background, but sort of something near to that. And also being Japanese and all that, So that, and all that came out, you see, just sort of naturally. And we didn't plan it, we just improvised it, And it was the first improvisation that we did together. And somehow, when you hear it, you see how sort of closely knitted, both of us somehow responding to each other and all that. It just happened.
It's a record of our minds meeting, really. We'd met sort of socially and got along and attracted to each other and all that. But this was our first exploration, abstract, mind-wise, and we met, you know, and you can hear it on the record. You know, it starts off and we put the tape on, and this happens and that happens, and certain moments where we just have the same thought or the same vibration, like, and it happens with the Beatles too when they record, or any people recording or any actors acting. There's a moment where they hit it. Very seldom they all hit it at once. There's usually somebody down and somebody up, and there's that story on the album, you know.
Don't you think that that could have been made, you know, and should have perhaps been made clearer to the people that are going to buy this record?
No, because you don't have to take it like that, you know. It's just incidental. That it's like, it's just my version of The Walrus, you know, or whatever the song is. You know, I'm just sort of saying, on that day, this is how it happened. But as it's called, it's unfinished music, you know. You put it on and not listen to it, you put it on and listen to it. You can get into it. You can get into the sound of the wind, or the sound of feet, or geese, or cats, or the fire, or the clock ticking. And if you're digging sounds, you can get into anything, you know. And you can get into it on that level, just as pure sound, you know.
So in other words, you can really use it as almost pure theatre, depending upon where your head's at
and
that
the same
moment.
with the records, with the Beatle records, you know. All the versions that people have of it, all their interpretations are true, you know, for them. Like, if you believe it, it's true, and if you don't believe it, it isn't true for you. It doesn't exist, you know. If I don't believe you, in you, you don't exist.
But two versions is slightly different in the sense that it did actually title unfinished music, you know, which means that we were very conscious of that, meaning that, well, you can add anything to it, you know, your own sounds if you want to, or just in your mind.
But you could do them actually, too, if you wanted to.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. That moment that you were talking about when two heads arrive at exactly the same place, and it doesn't happen very often among people that aren't associated often. But the Beatles are together really so much of the time compared to, say, other groups like the Rolling Stones, who, with the exception of recording and touring, they're pretty much split up. Can you think of any real
we go
examples
through
of where
that
that
too,
happens?
and you know, that's the reason probably why we did the Beatles album quicker after Pepper, because we know there's this period where we don't get together. And that's what we're going through now, really, is that we've got to readjust to each other. It's not, you know, although we've been married 10 years, it's still as new as it ever was, and the relationships are that sort of tender, and you can't just sort of bulldoze through because we've been together so long, you know. We've got to feel our way and try and communicate or reach a certain level together to put it across, you know, otherwise it doesn't work.
Can you think of any moments over the past, say, 3 albums that you can remember that all the 4 heads really came together at a certain point?
I can't offhand, you know. I know there are moments throughout all the albums where we've hit it. And there's moments where 2 of us have, or 3, or 1 has, you know. But I can't just name it like that.
It's a very rewarding thing, though. You really know it's worth it when that happens.
Well, it was that was rewarding on stage too, when you hit it, you know, when you sort of were out of it and you were just playing.
So we're really, during the last tours, in America especially, I guess there was really very little musical togetherness.
Yes, because the music wasn't being heard, and it was just sort of, it wasn't doing anything. It was just a sort of freak show. The Beatles were the show, and the music had nothing to do with it. And as we were musicians, we felt there was no enjoyment in it. You know, we wanted, if we're going to be Beatles, the only reason to be Beatles is to make music, you know, and not just to sort of be in a circus.
Yeah. So you don't feel that maybe this time, if you went back, what with the emergence of the underground, places like the Fillmore East, and Fillmore West, and the Avalon, where people would go, and if it could be controlled in the right way, they would go and they would listen. And
yeah, but we've done that gig, you know. We did it in Liverpool, Hamburg, and everywhere, and we haven't got a strong enough compulsion to do that gig. Yeah.
But John, you've come so far since then. Really?
Yes.
Have you thought that maybe it'd be nice to lay it all out in front of them again?
Well, I mean, that's what partly the reason for doing this show, doing a live sort of album with an audience, was just to do do that, really.
Yoko, the Beatles are a very tightly knit entity. I imagine it must have been very difficult at first when, you were confronted with all four of them at the same time and really saw how tight and together they were, especially in a studio. Did it make you feel, kind of alien at all?
I just didn't feel that so much in the beginning because, I was just sort of, I didn't meet John as one of the Beatles, But
She didn't even know who I was when we first met. Yeah.
I just met John as John,
Mm-hmm.
And so I got all involved in our relationship in a way, And I'm still that way, So I'm all involved and excited about what we're doing together. And I'm interested in John's work and my work, or the work that we do together, but not so much Beatles because, well, that's something else, So whenever I'm reminded of it, it's a strange feeling, really. And for instance, the conversation tends to be all about Beatles all the time,
Sure.
And when I'm such an involved person, so that I don't really realize that usually, but suddenly sometimes I realize, it's just all Beatle talk,
Mm-hmm.
But
So you can kind of shut your mind off to it in a way.
yeah, but I was used to a situation where I was talking about my work,
Yeah.
So it's a very different scene probably, but I still don't feel it so much yet, because we're so involved in what we're doing,
What are you two doing together right now, artistically?
Well, there's so many things we're doing now, actually. But
A couple of films we're making, and there's just quite a few things, a couple of shows in the offing, a couple of sort of theatre pieces in the offing, a couple of, we've put a few, contributed to a thing called the British Box, which is coming out in the States soon. Different artists just put different things in the box, and we're just doing a lot.
You must find that now that you've stopped touring, and that
Well, it's been 2
you toured
years
together,
since we
yeah.
stopped touring. Yeah.
But all right, say since Magical Mystery Tour, I'd say since your association with Yoko,
We met about then,
yeah, that your life must be so damn full now that you. Does it ever really scare you? You look, my gosh, the things that you're into.
Yes. Because with the Beatles, I'd say, oh, well, there'd be an LP and that, and there's nothing to do for a bit. I always never enjoyed not having anything to do and went through hell. But now there's something to do all the time. I mean, I used to think I wasn't working, but I'd just be in the garden making 8mm films or something, or just having vague ideas and things, which I didn't consider work. But when I met Yoko, I realised that that was work. That's another kind of work. And so, one way or the other, I work all the time now. I think I always did, but I felt as though I wasn't working before.
You're having to work at not working type of thing.
Yeah, but I can't stand not working,